Today we are gathered in this holy place to celebrate the life of Rose Chai Lian Gudge. Her husband John has asked me to read these, his reflections on their 51 years of married life. Rose was born on the 10th of December 1940 to her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Yo Sen Chong, on the island of Labuan. They were lucky enough to have 11 children, 5 boys and 6 girls. Rose vividly remembered the Japanese occupation of the island during World War II. When peace came to the Far East, Rose was educated at St. Anne's Convent, Labuan. In her final exams, equivalent to A-levels, she achieved 6 high grades. On her graduation, she started teaching at the same convent, which proved a very arduous task and gave concern to her mother and father. Later, she became an airport controller, another very responsible position, which required full concentration and a good command of English, mainly because the airport was also an RAF base. Unbelievably, when she had completed her day's work in the control tower, she would put on a Red Cross uniform and help her friends in the soup kitchen. It was about this time when she met her husband-to-be, who had been posted there to drop supplies by air to the troops in the jungles of mainland Borneo. John was a private soldier in the army based in Singapore. Rose and John were married on the 25th of January 1964 at Corpus Christi Church, Labuan. Shortly afterwards, they returned to Singapore, where they shared their accommodation with John's friend, Lance Corporal Jim Turton, and his Chinese wife. John was now a storeman, a complete contrast to the war zone of Borneo. In September 1964, John and Rose were posted back to England, flying out from RAF Changi, now Singapore's international airport. By this time, Rose was carrying their first child. John found the climate in the UK a big contrast to Singapore, but the most important thing was that she made a very favourable impression with John's parents and family. After the birth of their first child, Stephen, in April 1965, they moved into their new home at 7 Holly Terrace in Char, and later John's parents came to live next door. Rose and John were regular churchgoers in this very church in 1966, where they were made most welcome by all the parishioners. Father Matthew Hayes was the parish priest and was later replaced by Father James O'Brien. In September 1966, a second son, David, was born, followed 7 years later by Victoria. Rose began work at Tutworth Fruit Farm, and although she was shy, she proved herself very hard-working and worthy of responsibility. She worked at the George Hotel in Char and the Shrubbery Hotel in Ilminster, as well as the local Chinese takeaway. She loved gardening and had many houseplants. When she heard that an ex-teacher, Sister Josephine, from St. Anne's Convent, Labuan, had retired to a convent near Manchester, she insisted that John and she go and visit. Rose supported her 2 sons who played with Char concert brass, as well as supporting John and his band. For many years, she helped Canon O'Brien with the weekly news sheet. Eventually, she became warden for the sheltered housing in Dwelly Close, where she was well respected by both the elderly and the young. By now, she had 2 grandsons, Daniel and Jonathan, sons of Stephen and David, who she loved dearly. Even though she was fully occupied looking after the elderly, she found time to volunteer for Action Aid. Reluctantly, she retired at the age of 65 in 2005. Rose was very upset about the passing of Canon O'Brien and Father Patrick Auger, and very sadly, she herself was diagnosed with lung cancer in May 2013. She made a trip to Lourdes with the group run by Steve and Linda Crabb, which included Father Pat, who was more concerned for her than for himself. Her fellow pilgrims treated her as someone very special, and they took great delight in pushing her around in a wheelchair. Vicky then presented her with a granddaughter, Jade, at which she was overjoyed. Then later, towards the end of her life, her 3rd grandson, Logan. Rose always presented herself very well and treated her family as her top priority because she loved them so much. She loved her garden, especially the flowers, and John always referred to her as the loveliest flower in the garden. Because of the deterioration in her condition, Rose was put on palliative care in April this year. Finally, her battle came to a peaceful end when she passed away on the morning of Monday, the 4th of May. You fought the good fight, Rose. Now it is time for you to rest in peace.